You're the kings and the queens of the world. They treat you very well.
Thank you, Rupali, for your time today. Really, really appreciate it. Can you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi guys, I'm Rupali. I'm a data scientist at Amazon. I work with the payments team here at Amazon, so that's the kind of data I work with. And a little bit about my background. I've done my undergrad and master's in statistics from India, and then I moved here in about 2016 for my PhD, again in statistics. And I worked with genomic data, so a lot of applied work involved there. I think that helped me transition into industry also.
Okay.
So yeah, that's about me.
Okay.
Any specific questions around that?
Yeah, no. So after you finished your school in India, did you come here to the US to get your master's, PhD?
PhD directly,
Okay.
yeah. So I moved after my master's here directly. I didn't have any work experience.
Got
before
it,
I moved, so
got
I've
it.
been just studying all my life.
Got it. And so my next question is, what was your first reaction when you first got the job offer from Amazon?
Yes. So mine was like slightly different than I think not most folks, some folks. So I interned at Amazon in 2020.
Okay.
So I remember when I got my internship letter that I've been accepted, I was super happy. I was working late at my department, and I was just like, I heard the first person I saw, I was like, hey, I got it. And yeah, that worked out really well. And then when I interned, and on the last day, my manager, he gave me feedback about my internship. He told me what I did well, the areas of improvement, and then he told me, and by the way, we have converted you for full time. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so that was great. And I interned at a different team. It was gift cards team, and then I joined this payments thing. Yeah.
So the gift card team is actually within the consumer payments team.
Yeah, exactly. So it is within. It's just a different team, and I think people moved around. So that's why I ended up here.
Got it. So they tell you at the end of the internship.
Yeah, that's essentially the plan. Because I think they do. Like with the higher ups, they do a bar raiser and they see like if the candidate performed as well to the expectations.
Got it.
And then they essentially offer you. So I think that is one of the easiest way with big tech companies to get a full time. It's less hectic as well. I think full time interviews, I haven't interviewed for full time anywhere, but I've heard from people it's like a rigorous process. It's a good process, but it's very rigorous. And being an international, one thing for you is to get a job. Like
it's tough.
Yeah, exactly. So when I got it, I could focus my research. And that's pretty good.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you were you joined Amazon as an intern and then you rotated. You became a full-time employee. What was the interview process like? What was the application process like? I'm really curious because one, I don't think I have ever interviewed someone who has a PhD degree join Amazon. Two, and I have never actually interviewed a data scientist who have joined Amazon. So I think like just two different aspects I'm really curious about.
I hope I can answer this because when I was here, I didn't know many people who wanted to go into industry as well because most people go to academy after a PhD, especially in something like statistics. Most people, but now I have friends who are working at Google and all other companies. So for me, I think I decided in my fourth year, like I want a job and that's not an academia job I want. So I want to get an internship. A lot of my friends had. So the key was to just apply to companies and practice. Because for me, I've not worked before, so my key was not the technical part, but more like how do you present yourself? How do you answer those questions? Because I'm sure everybody's smart, everybody knows the answers. It's just like a simple question that might seem trivial to you. You might say it like blah, 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 but it has to be said in a certain constructed way. So it helped me with Amazon because Amazon was one of the last companies I interviewed for. And I already had offers for
different
Spotify and other companies. So I had a leverage because I didn't care almost at that point. So I was like answering to be truthfully and giving my best. But not with like, I wanted it, but like I was not desperate for it. So I think key is to know that you know things and if it's a good fit, you will get it. If you don't, you're probably not a good fit. It doesn't mean you're not smart or you don't know the things. You're just not a good fit. So keys to keep finding things where you are a good fit.
When it came to interview, did you what was the? So I think I sort of understand about the presenting part, like STAR method and the leadership principles and everything. But in terms of the technical interview, how was that like?
So with Amazon, I remember there was some coding aspects they checked for data science. Obviously, SQL, Python, or R. These were the three, I think, key. So I would say that has to be. SQL doesn't have to be fluent, but you need to know how to run queries because that's how you would get your data. So if you can't pull your data, you're basically relying on others, and that's what we want to eliminate. So I would say just I think lead code and other.
Yeah.
So people go rigorous with that. I would say go rigorous, just do it. And and also it depends on teams, I think, who you're interviewing for. So for me, for R and Python, they were like, I don't remember so much, but it was like nothing too crazy.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So the most important part, tell me what you do as a data scientist.
I wish I could answer that even with more breadth, but I'm like fairly new.
Okay.
I've interned at Amazon, and again, I just joined late December last year. So for me, my like input is just Amazon.
No.
But yeah, I can tell you a little bit. So essentially, data science, we take data, we find interesting things out of it. So for example, you can make a heuristic rule like people in US like to pay with credit card on Amazon. That's your assumption. How can we prove that? We use data for it. So that's something where we come in. We looked into data. And it may not be as trivial as it seems in your head because everything is complicated. And it's not the same as doing a class project.
Sure.
The data is very complicated. You might not even have full data to answer those questions. So you have to go around and find your ways. So this is like a trivial example. I can tell, I think, a little bit about my internship, what I did.
Yeah.
I think I worked on something like a detection model. So so I worked with gift cards, and gift cards, are sold at so many stores. The key is once you go to the store, sometimes they're not available in a specific idea you want. For example, you want $25 gift card, but they have $50 or they have $10. So that card, you're losing essentially customer experience, and you're losing customers at that point because a person might just go away, and some might actually go down or up from there. So the idea was to detect where the gift cards are getting out of stock.
Maybe a follow-up question, or more so around like just like data scientists overall, but like I guess like there are a lot of different roles within the data family. Like so, for example, data analyst, data engineer, data scientists. Like, can you maybe tell a little bit about like what might be the difference between all those kind of and like what would be the specifics or like the specialty of the data scientist aspect versus others?
Okay. Yeah. I could tell you about data engineers because I've worked with some of them. What I see is like they enable pipelines to get you the data. So coming up the data is not as seamless process as it seems. Amazon's such a giant company. You're coming like even a click you make at Amazon is a data, right? So how we ensure that thing comes to it in a timely manner every day. So that's what data engineers do. Make sure that it's seamless. Make sure it's trustable and those kind of things. So, and then from there, BIEs, business intelligence engineers, data analysts, business analysts, data science people would take over, right? They'll take the data in and they'll process it. And for me, it would be more complicated problems where it's not as easy as running a query and finding out, how many customers this month joined Prime. Like, that's not the answer. We probably want to build out, like, automate processes. Like, we don't want to run query every time. We want a ML model to just do that thing for us. So that's where data scientists or I think applied scientists would come in.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I think, just because there are so many different like roles within the data family, it's just like sometimes it's really just
I think it also depends on team, your manager, the company you work at, because many roles I feel are just like, they're like very blurred lines between them. Like, for example, Amazon has applied scientists, research scientists, and data scientists. I, as a data scientist, I essentially, I also am confused sometimes what are the blurred lines between it.
So you said that you did not have work experience before joining Amazon. Was there a lot of learning curve when you first joined?
Sure, and internship did help a lot because I think when you join as an intern, you're the kings and the queens of the world. They treat you very well. I'm not lying about this. I think it's because they're trying to attract you into it, right? And so you can ask the dumbest of the things, and that's good. And also you should ask those things because, how else would you learn? And also learning curve mostly was in terms of resources. Like when you enter Amazon, there's like blob of data, like blob of knowledge, and you don't know where to, go for what should I learn? Should I be learning this? Should I be learning that? How much time to put into these things? So it's still hard for me. Like I try to
Yeah.
navigate around it, but and also resources. Like as a data scientist, we use AWS services, so getting used to that because I had never used it before. So internship helped me figure that out a little bit. Like I learned maybe like 30%, and now I'm like increasing even every day. I'm like, oh, what does this thing do? And then I Google
Yeah.
it, and then I find more about
Yeah.
it, read about it, see tutorials, and
Got
yeah.
it. Got
So
it.
it's a good way to learn.
Got
It's
it. Yeah.
It's an everyday thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's still a learning curve for me as well.
Right?
So yeah, it's,
Yeah, I think if you think you're not in a learning curve, you're not growing. I have a feeling. If somebody
true.
says they're
Yep.
not learning or if they know everything,
yeah, it's very.
I
basically
think
the
you have a
same thing.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you like the most, and what do you like the least about your role?
Okay. I think most I would say is the impact. Like I wouldn't say about role or just working for Amazon. I
Yeah.
feel like the impact you can create.
Mm.
There's plenty of opportunities to work on, and you see your product becoming a thing, and like your name putting onto it, and they'll be like, oh, this thing was
Yeah.
created, and you can see in real time how's it performing. So that's a good point. Least is, I think it has nothing to do with Amazon or my role. I think it's more to do with me coming from academic background. So like years of research is a lot of deep dive and less bias for action because
Interesting.
you make everything as accurate as possible.
Got
and
it.
you can take as much time. Otherwise you're like, even when we push for publications
Yeah.
and academia, you're like, it has to be perfect.
Yep.
Like you have to believe in it, and then only you and your advisor will push for it. So here is a lot of bias fraction. So
Yep.
you have to be quick and like somewhat accurate, but not like
Yeah.
terrible or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that balance, I think
Balance.
I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So I do miss that research part of things.
Yeah. No, for sure,
Yeah.
sure. But last question already. Advice for those who want to join Amazon as a data scientist.
Advice, I think would just be easiest way to enter Amazon as full time would be do an internship. Internships, apply for them. Do find your strengths. Find a team where you could be actually thrive, and like hopefully find referrals. Referrals help. Find somebody who could refer you. That gets recognition, and take inputs from your friends about your resume, about how you're talking in your interviews. Learn from each interview. I would say apply to all companies, then do your pick. Don't pick
Yep.
first. As an international, this is because
Yeah.
I think with international it's not a people
Yeah.
sponsor.
It's-
So I would say apply, get what you want, and then you can pick and choose from there. And
Yeah.
it's a good practice. It will always help. And you would also learn about different companies, like how do they work, how is their interview process. So later in life, when you think you can, I don't know, tell somebody, oh, I learned this thing from even an interview, it's a good process. I would
Got
say.
it. Awesome. Hey, that was all the questions I had. Thank
Great.
you so much today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm
you.
happy I did this.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Cool.